So it is 1:30 in the morning on Thursday, April 27th, and I have a small confession to make. I've been lying to a majority of you for the last 2 years now. Not not in a big malicious lie. I didn't have sex with that woman. Stuff like that. More of a lie of omission. Those of you who are around in early 2015 will remember I went through a very tumultuous, emotional situation that very nearly led to terminal behavior. Is such an ugly word, but um, and part of it was triggered by the fact that I realized that several people I considered friends on Facebook, several people that I emotionally invested in, serious emotional investment. People like Mark Shireman, Cameron Caldwell / Wolfgang Wolf, and a few other people. It had dropped me, because I was kind of angrily lashing out, and that was kind of a catalyst for a bigger issue. Some of you, who have known me for a while, like way, way back, like in the live journal days, know that once upon a time I was a doctoral student at the University of Central Florida, and I had pushed all the way to my dissertation when the Great Recession hit, and my adjunct contracts dried up. I had no way to take care of myself. UCF did absolutely nothing to help me. The Department of Education, we don't have any we don't have any graduate research assistantships, and because you're a higher ed student, we like our K-12 students teaching the lower level classes. Because apparently you have to be a fucking K-12 teacher to sit down and talk about Piaget and talk about John Dewey. Anyway. To make a very long story short, I made what I've come to call poor life choices for my dissertation committee. I chose four people who could not, even if they tried, and I'm God, editorializing again, they were not professionally equipped to work with a distance education student on his dissertation. So what happened was a series of frustrating years where I would sit down and I would get a topic and I would put a prospectus together and I would send it down, and I would wait several weeks to hear, no, you didn't do it right, go back and do it over again. And we ran that carousel again and again and again and again, to the point where in late 2013, I pretty much timed out of the program. That is to say, I finished without the dissertation. I'm basically what we call ABD, all but dissertation, which means nothing in academia. And because I was so busy trying to stay alive, because my former employer had just laid me off, I was kind of in survival mode for a majority of 2014, just taking classes at the community college in IT, trying to push myself towards a career in IT. Before I was discovered and brought onto the faculty as an adjunct. So finally in early 2015, I kind of had a moment where I was out of that. I was out of that just kind of primal survival, oh shit, fire to fire, kind of like the last 25 minutes of Aliens, basically, where it's just roller coaster, crisis to crisis to crisis to crisis to crisis to crisis, get away from her, you bitch, crisis, crisis, crisis. I finally, by early 2015, I just had a moment where I could sit and take stock, and realizing that I had those people drop me just kind of set off this chain reaction that basically made me realize I had no control in my life at that point in time whatsoever, to the point where I finally went through the morning for my botched doctorate, and that was kind of why things got very terminal. I will not publicize the number, but I am carrying staggering student loan debt that I don't even have a doctorate, to kind of hedge against. Um, so I kind of I had several meltdowns that were very nearly terminal. Um, so I don't want to say rock bottom, but I had a moment of self assessment where I kind of, I always tell people, let me sit down and figure out a solution to a problem, and at that point in time, I really hadn't had time because, my current solution in 2014 was basically, try to get myself into an IT career so, I could live like an adult. Um, but I say that because finally, when I realized, why I was just in this shitty emotional place where I was very ready, and I say that, when I say I was very ready to check out, I had the ticket and everything. And I kind of realized that a lot of it had to do with the doctorate. This was a goal that I set for myself when I was 13 years old. This video is going on way longer than I wanted it to. But when I was 13 years old, my middle school guidance counselor, a gentleman at Lake Fenton named Bernard Wolf, basically said, "Matt, you're too stupid for college." The way that he put it was, "Well, you're not college material. We're going to put you in the voc ed track." Of course, this is after my father had told me for years and years and years, "You're going to college." I said, "Well, my father says I'm going to college." Bernard Wolf said, "No, you're voc ed material." And I had to get myself in another school. Those of you who are watching this, if you are any of my Valley colleagues, that was how I wound up at Valley. I had to go to a school where I wasn't. It's what we call tracking in education. Basically, I was put on a particular path, and once I was tracked at Lake Fenton, I could not break out of it. They would not put me in college prep classes. So I decided, as a young teenager, it's like, what, dude, if you're telling me I'm not college material, I'm not only going to fucking go to college, but I'm going to get myself as high on the food chain as I can get. And that kind of became what originally became a journey of spite. Because I am sure Bernard Wolf is dead at this point in time. What originally became a journey of spite really became this journey of self-discovery, because for the first time in my life, I found an area where I was fucking successful, man. In college, in higher education, once I started my teaching career, I had misfires like crazy. I had some schools where I just was not a good fit. Yeah, you could look at it one of two ways. Either I wasn't a good fit for the school, or the school wasn't a good fit for me. Either way, kind of like my parents. There was a great honeymoon period, but after about 5 or 6 years, things just really started getting shitty. That was kind of like a lot of the schools where I was teaching. So, train of thought just derailed. So basically, after kind of sitting down and taking stock, school, education, the one thing that I had just been chasing and chasing and chasing was the doctorate. Even when I was working in a factory at Lucent Technologies in the late 90s, I was still doing work in graduate school. I was still chasing that rabbit. And then when they laid me off and the factory was closed and eventually bulldozed, I went back to school, and that was when I started my teaching career. And when I started my teaching career, that just intensified my drive for the doctorate. So when I was in a position in 2013 where, well, sorry, you don't even get the booby prize. You're done. You didn't produce a dissertation. And, yes, our shitty faculty did nothing to help you other than, take the credit card 3 times a semester for tuition, 3 times a year for tuition. We're sorry. What I realized was, that was the one thing, the one mission. And I kind of got distracted on it. So I'm almost 10 minutes on this video. I've been lying to you because at the end of the spring semester of 2015, I sat down with Tim and Drew one night at the Starbucks that we hang out in Cary Crossroads, and basically told them what I needed to do to repair myself. I needed to get back on that doctoral path. And I know what you're thinking. No, I'm not on my doctorate, because thanks to my former support staff at UCF, I basically had to repair my curriculum vitae. I had toxic references. I asked former professors at UCF if they would write me references, and they're like, "Oh, well, because of your dissertation, we can't write you a good ethical reference." I'm like, "Where the fuck were your ethics when you were taking my tuition 3 times a semester and not even sending me a fucking email? Hey, Matt, you haven't written anything. Are you dead, or are you just on auto pay until the credit card runs out?" So anyway, what I had to do was basically start from scratch, and that was what I did. I applied to a Master's of Education program at NC State. It was online delivery, so I could kind of fit it into my schedule. That isn't to say that my loved ones haven't seen me and I haven't been scarce. I've been very hard to get a hold of for a reason, because for the last 2 years now, I've been in graduate school. I am graduating on May 13th with a Master's of Education in Digital Teaching and Learning. Basically, I took my old analog seated teaching skill set and I upgraded it for digital enhanced distance education. So why am I making this video? Well, for one, I wanted to kind of let everybody in on the secret. Two, I kept this secret for a very big reason. When I washed out of my doctorate, I'm not going to say that the bear community has toxic men in it, but the bear community has toxic men who treat Schadenfreude the way that they would a cigarette out of the bar. Just person to person to person. I'm thinking about people like Kevin Bryant, for example, just lives to watch other people suffer and just take pleasure from that. Those of you in the live journal days know that, Kevin was kind of big in the more flounce community. And I had people taking shots at me on social media once that it leaked that my doctorate wasn't going to happen. And I sucked it up and I took the bullets, and I didn't want to be in a position where if I failed on this, that it would give the shitbags lulls. So what I did was I hunkered down. It was kind of like He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. A few people knew my real secret. A few people knew that when I complained about professional development, I'm really not complaining about professional development. I'm complaining about things going on in grad school. Now, that isn't to say, some PD I was legitimately complaining about. Believe me, the HR onboarding that I had to do, all the videos, sexual harassment, Title IX, active shooter, all those, those were just fucking punishing. But sometimes when I would be involved in a project in graduate school and I had to vent on social media to get it out. PD or professional development, that was the dog whistling or the code word that I used. So that for me was one of the big reasons why I kept it quiet. I was I was scared as hell when I went for that first orientation, because I just thought, it's going to be another doctoral degree. I'm going to lose my motivation. I'm going to fail. I'm going to fall apart. And goddamn, here I am. I'm at the end. So the reason why I am making this video, this video is kind of documentation of my final act as a grad student in this program. We have to do video reflections and responses to our peers, and I wanted, for not only my own sake, but to kind of bring all of you along for the ride, or at least those of you who have watched this video, to the 15-minute mark, to kind of be here with me at the end. So this is the final reflection. I already did the responses to my 3 peers. So this is kind of the final reflection. This is the final act, the last thing that I am going to do. It's basically the equivalent of me doing a Freddie Mercury and standing in front of a spotlight and just defiantly raising a fist in the air. Only in my case, it's more of a defiant middle finger to the University of Central Florida education faculty. But anyway, so I have to do a 2-minute video response, and I wanted at least those of you who have been here from the beginning, who knew about this. Steve and Julie, thank you. Tim and Drew, thank you. John, fuck, I should not be getting emotional right now. John, I don't want to get emotional on Flipgrid. I've only got 2 minutes to talk before this thing shuts off. John, thank you. Without all of your support, this would not be happening right now. And I really have to make sure that I do not have a fucking ugly cry on my final video. All right. As a course closure activity, download and open the select a quote PowerPoint file. Okay. Select a quote that speaks to your experience. Tell your quote and why you chose it. All right. Here we go. 3, 2. So first of all, Dr. Oliver, if I were in a position where I could choose my own quote, this would be my quote, and this is my gift to you for your file for future classes. But the one that I chose was the Tolkien quote, all that is gold does not glitter, not all those that wander are lost. This video is kind of the end of my journey, not only for this class, but the end of my journey as a student in this program. So, I thought, kind of starting this class, I knew, I've been doing video production for several years in my classes. I thought this was going to be a K class, but, I have to do, an interview. I have to do documentaries. I have to do stop motion animation, which was something I wanted to do back in like middle school and high school, but never thought that I would be doing, much less with, an iPad and a stand and Post-it notes on my whiteboard at the office. But the reason why I really say that, not all that wander are lost, this degree is closure for kind of a bigger picture. I came to this program as a failed doctoral student. I came to this program to get this degree to repair my vita, to make some new connections who can vouch for me as a legitimate student to move into a doctoral program. So for me, it really kind of felt like I was wandering, but, getting here is where I need to be. And the more I think about it, the doctoral program that I washed out of was probably not a good fit for me. I wandered, but I wandered to get here making this video. So this for me is kind of closure. This is the last thing that I'm doing, the last video, the last everything. After this, I am done with this degree. So with that having been said, thank all of you, Dr. Oliver. Thank you, classmates. Thank you. Be well. So first of all, Dr. Oliver, if I were in a position where I could choose my own quote, and we just have to take the picture. Bear with me. And I'm just going to make sure this gets submitted to Flipgrid very, very quickly. Name, email, address, submitting. And done. There we go, folks. That is a wrap. So the question that you're asking now, what next? Oh, that was right. My God, I haven't even. So I was not only successful in this degree, I was successful to the point where I am walking out with memberships in 3 honors societies. Back at the end of March, I was inducted into Phi Kappa Phi, which is a general academic honor society. I was also offered membership in Golden Key, another honor society, and earlier tonight, the 26th of April, I was inducted into Kappa Delta Phi, which is the Teachers Honor Society. I'm walking out. I don't think I'm going to pull a perfect 4.0. I think this one class that I finished is probably going to wind up with an A-. It's going to pull me down to 3.9 territory. But as of the beginning of the spring semester, I walked into this semester with a perfect 4.0 average. that was something that I could have never dreamed about. Even when I was down at UCF, where the classwork was relatively easy, which was one of the reasons I was kind of ambushed by the doctorate when I got there. I had classes that I took for this degree that I was thinking, it's like, if I get out of this with a B, I'll be happy. And by the end of the semester, I walked out with an A. I'm gonna wrap this video up and probably produce it and post it. But I wanted you, at least who wanted to watch the video, those of you who haven't unfollowed me on Facebook for various problematic reasons, to kind of join me in this moment. Again, I am sorry if you feel like I intentionally lied to you. I did not want to hurt anyone's feelings. Rather, I wanted to protect my own in the event that this degree did not work out. So with that having been said, again, Steve and Julie, thank both of you for your support. John, thank you for your support. You know what that means to me. And Tim and Drew, thank you for your support. And if the two of you thought that I was a fucking pain in the ass to deal with when I was on this master's degree, kids, buckle down for the doctorate in 2 years. Thanks, folks.